what's up, guys? This is the Joey Langenbrunner podcast. We talk about sovereignty and freedom here. So we have a very special guest, a close personal friend of mine. Her name is Samuela. She is a Liberland representative and a writer. What is Liberland?
Hey there. Hi, Joey. Happy to see you. What is Liberland? It's the
Yeah.
freest country in the world that we've been building since 2015. And it's incredible because this year we are celebrating 10th anniversary. So yeah, we
Wow.
basically we built the country from scratch.
How do you do that? Like what's the process?
Yeah, so there's an international framework, legal framework. So we're
Okay.
actually meeting the status quo, not really fighting it, but rather create despite or things are the way they are. Okay, so how to build a country? You need to meet 4 points. You need to have a territory. You need
Okay.
to have a permanent population,
Okay.
government. Despite we're libertarians, but yes, we do need to have a government. Obviously, very limited one.
Good,
And
better.
what have I? Capacity to build, create diplomatic relations. So I think that the worst thing is to have a territory. So we found one that didn't belong to anyone. It's called no man's land.
Yeah.
This term for this. It's between Serbia and Croatia in
Okay.
Europe. Beautiful place, sandy beaches,
It is. I've seen it.
and
I've seen it.
yeah, and
I believe we
so
met there actually. But and for everyone who doesn't know me, I'm also the ambassador or a ambassador at large for Liberland as well. I've been involved since 2017, and I met Samuela through the Liberland project. So it's something that is very dear to my heart as well. So when we're talking about freedom and sovereignty here, this is so key. If you can create a new country that captures these types of principles, then it's just a beautiful thing. And it's an ongoing project. I'm not nearly as involved as I used to be, but Samuela, I've been seeing you travel all over the place, speaking at so many different events representing our great country. Tell me about your travels.
well, that's a very wide question.
I
But
know.
yeah, so I travel to share that we build a country. And yeah, we meet all those principles, the basic principles to become a country.
Okay.
And we have a community of 770,000 people right now
Yeah.
around the whole globe, which is super awesome. And I can see it when I come to actually literally any place, be it Australian Parliament, be it Singaporean investors meetup, be it Dubai, many events in Dubai related to especially Web3.
Yeah.
And I just pitched it like I just built a country, and people are like, "You're from Liberland." That's crazy, man. It's crazy. The awareness is really high, and I am really glad that there are some other projects already nowadays like that. There, be it some parallel society kind of concepts. There are pop-up
Yeah.
cities which
Right.
unify founders around the world in different spots. We actually will have a pop-up city this year as well, right after the anniversary. It's mid-April till mid-May, and we will dedicate it to decentralized space, decentralized science. It's really like, cutting edge pro future kind of project, and just unifying people from all around the world coming to one place and to work together. And I really like this kind of thing. And I'm glad that I'm glad that there are some other such concepts that are popping up around the world, that they are happening, because I see that it changed the way how people see it, how people think. So I believe that the best way to fight the status quo is by creation. That's more like Taoistic principle,
Right.
and I
Or
can see that this is
or or
yeah.
even create like parallel systems. So you simply opt out of current systems and just choose to voluntarily join a new
Yeah.
system.
Yes, but that's a creation. So like you're not
Right.
fighting. Okay, this is the reality, but maybe I can create something that meets my values. And I believe that all these concepts, be it Liberland, be it Prospera, be it pop-up cities, be it whatever, Liberstadt or any other kind of concept, uh, they do exactly this. And there are more and more people who create some similar projects or who join and who come to these villages or to these places. And there are even people who just live around the world in those pop-up cities and go from one place to another.
I know some of
And
those people.
yeah.
So here, I have a question, and I used to get this question when I would travel around, to represent, like this Liberland project. There is almost 200, like jurisdictions, or about 193, 194, like UN recognized countries. So it's almost like a buffet of different jurisdictions. Could you not seriously find one jurisdiction out of that 193, 194 recognized UN countries that honestly met your principles, like mostly? Like why go through all the work to start something new when you have like almost 200 options?
Mm, yeah, certainly. Well, I believe that honestly, the more I travel, the more I feel like I can't find one spot where I would love to live. It's just I don't like winter, for example, right? And I made Georgia, the European Georgia, the country, to be my home since 2020, and I love the country. They have very nice hospitality, very easygoing people, and it's a good place if you're a workaholic and you don't want to burn out. So you work hard online and then you get out and you're like, wow, I can relax. I can, you know. And it's a very slow pace. There's a lot of contact between people, even in the capital city. So that's
Yeah,
beautiful. Uh, but I don't like winter. So
right.
here I am in Bali calling to you. Um, yeah, so I believe that this optionality to find actually different spots that may work for you is great. However, no, I'm sorry, Joey, there's no like truly libertarian country. But let's return to Georgia, actually. They have some, it's like a hidden gem. I'm super
Yeah.
shocked that not enough people know about it. Not enough people move in. I pay 1% tax for my freelancing uh like license, and it's legal. I'm
I
a
know, I was gonna
proud
ask questions. 1% tax? I mean,
I'm a what.
I mean, you're telling this to someone who lives in the US. So as an American citizen, I will always have to pay tax anywhere I live in the world. And we're paying like 30, 40, 50, percent tax, and you're from on the Czech Republic. I forget like the tax there, but 1% sounds like a little too good to be true.
Yeah, but it's true. It's
It
just
is
this
true. It is
simple.
true. It is true because
Period.
people sometimes like forget that they can move to other jurisdictions and pay less tax or deal with less regulations. There are certain reasons why people en masse move to Dubai, move to Abu Dhabi. And what's interesting, so for me, I study migration patterns, for a living, okay? And the most millionaires, you know where they move to? They
Goodbye.
move to Abu Dhabi. Why?
Mm,
Because there's no personal income tax. There is a new 9% corporate tax, and depending what you do, you can get around that in certain cases. But I mean, it's safe. The infrastructure is great. Um, it's I almost moved there a few years ago, actually. Um, too much car culture, and if you go there in August and July, do not walk outside. It's 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 what, like 50 degrees Celsius there. It's just too much. But like with that being said, there's a certain niceness to a place that has a 0% tax rate, or even like you're in Georgia, you have a 1% tax rate. And people forget
yeah.
this.
But I would say that one of the big part of the thing is not just the tax, but it's the lifestyle. And I believe that the biggest scam every country, every nation state tries to make is no matter what pain you experience right now, it's your country is still the best deal. It's not true. Because if you travel the world, you see that every country thinks this.
Hold
Every
on,
every
hold on.
citizen thinks,
Hold on. But when you say like the best country in the world, as an American citizen, I mean we are the best country in the world. I mean we just renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Okay? We're gonna make Canada the 51st state. we're gonna buy Greenland from Denmark, and we're gonna retake the Panama Canal. I mean, like, we're the best country on earth. So, like, I mean, like,
Man, I'm a woman. I learned that women shouldn't argue with men. You're right.
I it's crazy living in a time where Trump is president and seeing the renewed interest of American nationalism, especially being here in the US. And his new foreign policy is being it's being felt all over the world. If it's like Ukraine, Russia, Greenland, Panama, Colombia, China, Taiwan, it is crazy. It is crazy because being here, so like I live in Florida, and Florida is basically where Trump is. He has his Mar-a-Lago on the resort, but about 2 hours north of Miami, and it's like the new White House. This guy is like, I don't even need the White House in Washington, D.C. My personal home in Florida is kind of like the new White House. So I mean, like, it's crazy to live in these times because when you have an empire, kind of like the default, like the US is still kind of like the Roman Empire. It's the strongest country at the time, has the biggest military. If you want to make money, Samuela, I mean, like, the US is the best place to make it. Like, sure, Dubai, Singapore,
Goodbye.
yeah. Like, are some good competition, and that's why I was seriously considering moving to Dubai, and a lot of millionaires are moving to Singapore as well. But on average, for an average person, the US is still the best place to make money, you know? So if you deal with all the taxes and regulations that the US has, it's still the best place to make money. So, like, what's your counterpoint? Like, oh, I'm gonna go to Georgia. Yeah, I can have a cheap lifestyle. I can pay 1% tax, but the amount of opportunities you might have is less there. What's your arguments against that?
Um, yeah, sure. Good point. So honestly, I don't care about the location in the first place. I believe that the sovereignty starts when you do not have to care about where is your ass.
And your ass is in Bali and
What
my ass is in Florida.
what opportunities are we talking about if I have my Apple MacBook?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and and on the internet, we just call this Wi-Fi money. We sit on our laptop and we make money somehow. I just make some video calls and then
yeah.
stuff goes up in my bank account.
So I would think about it. What is uh the competitive advantage that the country where I sit brings me? And is it the opportunities that I can do there? Like, maybe no. So to me, it makes no difference whether I'll be sitting in Bali or in Vietnam, my favorite, or in Georgia or in Czechia. I just don't like it. I don't like the EU. I don't like, and I don't find actually interesting or attractive to me the US. And to me, uh, I think that we often forget that it's not that you pay the tax. The thing is that you have to bring attention to so many regulations. So I come from the Central Europe, which is far too close to Germany. And it's not so funny. The thing is that the bureaucracy becomes so overwhelming that your first thing when you start your business, when you want to start anything to sell, you think of how to make it legally, how actually to not to avoid the law, how to make it following the regulations, instead of thinking of, what value I can bring to the world.
Right.
So no, it's not about the tax. The tax is a nice thing. Of course, when you realize that, wow, I can invest into myself 20% more money, 30%, 50% more money. Okay, wow, that's an interesting thing. Obviously, when I meet Canadian people in Dubai, they're like, Dubai is so cheap. I'm like, man, buy me the dance class monthly pass, which is like $1,000, please. But
Wow.
very nice dance.
Yeah. I would hope so for $1,000, but it's interesting thing, so yeah, it's like a few points. Starting a business in the EU. I've never done it, but I've heard it's very, very bureaucratic. I know Estonia with their e-residency program, they
I
make it
want to cry.
easy and online and things like
Yes.
this. But what I'll tell you is if you start a business in the US, do you know how long it takes you to get that business up and going?
It depends on the states too. As far as I know, I guess that in filming and such, it can be online and it
Yeah,
can be
yeah,
super
yeah,
fast. Yeah.
yeah. Like it takes about a day. So in one day, I can get like let's say like a Wyoming LLC. Okay.
Yeah.
I can get an online bank account maybe through Brex or Mercury. Okay. And and I don't necessarily have to say what the company does, like maybe consulting, whatever. I can constantly change it. And on top of that, if you, let's say if you're not a US citizen and you want to access the biggest retail market in the world, the US,
You're selling
you,
it so hard.
I know, I know, I know, I know. I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you. Um, and also I am a true patriot of Liberland, as you are too. And there's pros and cons to every jurisdiction. But if you set up a business in the US, it takes a day, get a bank account, boom, done. That's much faster than any place in the EU, even more than Estonia. So like there's a reason why the US is a good place to do business. Yes, do you have regulations? Do you sometimes have licenses and stuff like that? And if you don't follow the law, as in any country, you'll get in trouble. You can get to jail and stuff like that. And the U.S. will enforce it. While maybe if you do this in Georgia, you can probably get away with it, a bit. Not that I would encourage anyone to break the law, of course. But what is also interesting in the U.S., Samuela, is the U.S. is the biggest tax haven in the world.
If you're not the US citizen.
Exactly.
I think if you don't live there, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
So if
aware of.
you, yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you hold money in a US bank, they don't report it to your home country or to your current tax residency. So, but it's crazy. Me as a US citizen, if I want to move to Georgia, if I want to move to Czechia, Vietnam, wherever, Dubai, and I set up a bank account, most banks won't even open up a bank account for me.
You're right, yeah. I actually, one of the things I do, I open premium bank accounts in Georgia. They have a
Mhm.
very nice banking.
Yes,
They're
they do.
very low bureaucratic. And yeah, it's the premium banking is called Solo. It's from Bank of Georgia, one of the two major banks there.
Yeah.
And the thing is actually about Georgia that I think it's because the workforce is pretty cheap. So they open the bank accounts to the US citizens with pleasure. Because to them, it's like, oh, awesome, new customer. They're happy for that, you know? And I do this remotely for clients. So
Okay.
we have our team. We actually now even do the apostille and notary. So you don't have to do anything. You print out the power of attorney, you scan your passport, you write there like, yeah, this is my passport, I declare it, and you send us the photo and we handle the rest. And then you get your premium cards, Visa Premium, what is it? Visa Signature, MasterCard, World Elite. And I'm like, okay, this is very nice. And yeah, so no problems for the US customers, but US customers are like, are you serious? Like, no
I
problem.
know, like
And
I'm
I'm like,
shocked. I'm shocked because we
yeah,
have to, we have to deal like with FACTA. So like we have to report the bank account,
sure.
like through like an F bar and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's just a US tax thing. And
yes.
it's very annoying. So like sometimes for me, there are certain advantages of being a US citizen because you get access to let's say like extremely high paying jobs, like with their job market that, like you may not have as good of access to, me than like if you want to get a job working at Google for 300,000, of course you pay half of it in taxes, because it's in California too. But you do have that access. But on the flip side, if we try to live overseas, we still have to file a tax return. Some banks won't take us, especially like in Switzerland. In Georgia, seems to be an exception. And I know like Armenia has a good banking system too, from what I've heard as well. Um, and also on top of that, I feel like half of the world hates us. So, so there are pros and cons to being a US citizen. And I'll make this analogy. If you have like an iPhone or you have like an Apple, MacBook, right? You're kind of in a closed system. It works very well, but it's kind of closed, right? But if you have like like a PC or an Android, it's more open, so it's more, it can be less secure, it can be more secure on how well you're knowledgeable about it. And so that's the way that I view a US citizen. Like we feel like we're like an Apple product. Like we're very enclosed, like we're in this ecosystem, but it's hard for us to get outside of this ecosystem, you know?
I would tell you that every country tries to make this the same for every, like for its citizens. I studied media and propaganda, okay? So my perception is pretty clear. But just to like conclude sort of like argument if it is, I am happy for everyone if they found what they like.
Yeah.
That's the most important. If the system, if the whatever setup you have, if this truly works for you, not rationalizing it, not explaining yourself to me, but if that's truly, genuinely works for you, then I'm happy because you are happy. But the problem is that we often rationalize, we try to explain why our country is the best, blah, blah, blah. And trust me, again, every citizen of every country has this tendency because you're every day since being born, just like told in different ways how you should be proud of your country, how you have the history and the culture and and Europeans are especially proud because of the
Oh,
long
jeez.
history and how yeah. But you're laughing about it, but it also gives you sort of sense of having something in common with people who were born hundreds of kilometers away from you because they have the same passport. And it's an artificial way how to make you feel like you belong somewhere because we have this need to belong. And that's how nationalism fulfills us. And it's okay. But yeah, okay, so US is the best country, of course, no doubt. Yeah, what you mentioned, this about this system, kind of enclosed system. So I had a chance to talk to a few people from Africa.
Yeah,
And actually, when we talk about banking, you mentioned Armenia. The problem with Armenia is that you cannot open a bank account without having a residency. Actually, in most places in the world, you need to have a residency card
right.
when you want to open the bank account there. You have to live there or you have to have some history or so. Georgia is an exception to this. It's actually brutally is the most least bureaucratic country from my perspective. But in reality, on the world level, it's something like seventh country with ease of doing business and all these things. Blah blah blah. I'm not selling Georgia here. I like the country. I'm not there now myself,
It
but
sounds like you're selling.
uh oh well, I just
Is
like it.
Georgia better
Uh,
than like the US? Is this what I'm hearing from you?
I no. Of course, US is
Georgia,
but
Georgia, the country for my US listeners, because sometimes in the US we'll say like, oh, like Georgia this, Georgia that, and like living in Florida, we're literally right next to the state of Georgia. And I swear, like sometimes when I talk about the country of Georgia, because it fascinates me. I've been to Armenia before, but I've not been to Georgia. But I always have to explain to people, like, no, Georgia, the country, and like I'm so international in the way that I'm thinking that so if someone says Georgia, I think of the country, but not of the US state that like I'm right next to because I'm in Florida. Like I totally forget it exists. It's a beautiful state. It's a lovely state, as Trump might say. But like my mind is so international that sometimes I forget that Georgia is a US state.
it's okay. It's okay.
Well, yeah,
But
I hope so.
look, I read the Georgia the country is so low bureaucratic that I read the text code. Why? Because it has 47 pages.
Really? So
47.
so
47.
In the US, like I forget how many stories like the US tax code is.
Let's just not open this
And
topic.
well, of course I'll never open it. Like if we can take a chainsaw to it, like Malay style, the president of Argentina. Um, Fun fact, I have to brag about this, Samuela. So Malay, the president of Argentina, actually follows me on Twitter.
That's incredible.
I've never had a
Congratulations.
I've never had a president outside of President Witt. President Witt is the president of Liberland. So now I have two presidents following me on Twitter. I feel so special.
I am not surprised, because we have pretty nice ties with Liberland and Argentina. So we are pretty well connected.
Have you been?
It doesn't, not yet. But I was supposed to speak at LabitCon last year,
Yeah.
a big conference. But then I was like, okay, it's too far.
I know for me, like I have not been to Argentina yet. I hope to go this year. I've heard lovely things about it. A lot of my listeners know that I love steak. I love meats, and like Argentina steak is like some of the best. I have heard that Paraguay steak is actually better, but I guess we'll see. But like for me, if I want to take like a long trip, like I just go to Europe because it's comfortable, it's nice, especially for like an American. Like Europe is like romantic to us, so it's nice. And I used to live in Portugal for a while too, but I need to make a goal to go down to Argentina now. I have to.
Hmm.
I have
Okay,
to.
make it.
I will.
Yeah,
So,
but I think this is what Europe actually has, and what is, it's very interesting when you look at the country, what kind of narrative they use, and Europe pride is based on this romantic history and romantic kind of culture and photos and the houses without the lift and suckers. Suckers. But yeah, it's very romantic. It looks back. It looks backwards, right? But then if you go to places like Dubai again.
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you have countries which are looking forward, which are like, okay, how can we become more competitive to other countries? How can we boost our economy? How can we attract more people in? And yeah, again, like you mentioned Abu Dhabi, I was there recently. To me, it's maybe too boring, but I understand why people move in because it's clean, it's safe, it's really safe. Like I'm used to just walking outside at night and just to feel good. I cannot do it in every place in the world, let's be
Right,
honest.
right.
And to me, it's more important. And then the mind-blowing thing that like, okay, you can literally, there are a lot of jokes where people are just laying Rolex on their car and open car and so on in Dubai, and then
Yeah,
they leave for
yeah.
50 minutes and then they come back and they're like, of course it is here. And it's just crazy. And I think that the point is, even if maybe the tax would be higher, I'm like, wow, it's so good because I feel so, 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 so safe. You don't have to think. The problem is when you live for a long term in high tax and high bureaucratic place in whatever place, we are very adaptive creatures and we adapt so fast that we consider it a norm and we're like, yeah, it's not so bad. It's okay. And again, you rationalize, you explain why it's not so bad. But in reality, deep in your heart, like when you go to a place where you can relax, when you are like, wow, I don't have to think about all this burden. I don't have to think about all these responsibilities, hire five people just to manage somehow to get a company, pay my taxes, blah, 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 because you need a whole team just to think about the bureaucratic nonsense, which costs another money. Hello. But okay, to me, paying taxes or paying lower taxes and opting into a better environment is rather a question of self-respect. So this is how I want to be treated. I want to be in a place which is safe. It's very important for me as a woman. I want to be
Of
in a place
course.
where I don't have to think about like, oh, will someone like steal my iPhone? What if I dress up somehow well and people will like, I don't know, stop me and rob me? So that's just insane. I don't want to think in these terms, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if I can, yeah, if I
Yeah,
can
no.
be at my best, if I can be, I don't know, dressed up and not showing off, but just like be normal, be the way at my comfort zone. So there are not so many places in the world. I love Liberland, but it's not ready yet. But there are not so many other places in the world where I would feel both safe and pay lower tax. And yeah.
Yeah, so I wholeheartedly agree, and this is why I honestly will never live like in Latin America, for example. Like I was in Mexico City a few weeks ago. And like Mexico City, like in some places are safe. It's nice, it's modern, it's great, it's hip, it's whatever. But the country in the whole, like everyone knows like the corruption with like the police in Mexico and stuff like that. And then I was in Colombia maybe like 2, 3 years ago, and I remember just people just like stealing phones, like left and right around me. Like, why would you want to live in these places? Like, hey,
Mm,
sure, it's cheap. Like this will be like the first argument, like, oh, Colombia is so cheap, Mexico is so cheap, Brazil is so cheap, like these places. But like for me, I'm okay paying a little tax if it's B. Sure, like the UAE is 0% tax, even better. But like I don't mind paying a little bit, or even like paying a higher price for like my cappuccino or my steak or whatever, if I live in a safe place. So for
yeah,
me, it's not necessarily about going to the cheapest place. Like
I totally agree with you. Yeah,
I
but
say that I
mm,
say that whole, you know, you know, like I know a lot of people will go to Southeast Asia because it's cheap. You know, I don't know how safe it is. I've never
it's
been
not
there.
cheap, guys.
It's not cheap?
Okay, so it depends on how you want to live, right? So, if you there and okay, second point. First, how I want to live. Second, what kind of people I want to surround myself with. I don't want to surround myself with people who are like, oh, these noodles are 20 cents higher. It's so inflated. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. It used to be so much better back in 2020. Oh my God. Serious. Is this kind of like surrounding I want to have? Or do I want to have people around me who are like, how can I make $1,000 more this month to get my dance class? But okay, so these are 2 points. And I see, for example, I like Chiang Mai, which is on north of Thailand. It's a beautiful place with a lot of waterfalls around and so on. I like Chiang Mai because of the waterfalls and just traveling around. But then the people are dropshippers. 90% of the city are dropshippers. And they're literally like, let's go to this place because it has plastic chairs and pad thai will cost me there $2. And I'm like, or $1.45. And I'm like, oh my God, please, no plastic chairs. If you want to live in Bali, and you can I mean, you have a diversity here, okay? You can go to plastic chair places. I don't know how much it costs there. I assume it's cheap. I haven't tried. I don't need to try. I like myself.
I
Or
I
I can go to fancy cafe and I will have my $8 meal and but it's clean, okay? It's
hold on.
normal.
Hold on. $6, $8? Like that's normal.
Yeah.
Like that's cheap.
Yeah, sure, for you. Okay. But when you compare this, I mean, for me, it's okay. It's normal. It's okay. To me, it's normal. Yeah. You can go to better places and it will be even higher. And it's okay too. But it's not so much cheaper compared to Dubai. It's not so cheaper from compared to Europe. Yeah, it's okay though. Yeah, it
So
may be, yeah.
yeah, so for the record, in the US, I don't think you can get even like a McDonald's Happy Meal for like $6 to $8.
Hmm.
So
I don't know what to say meal, but okay.
like like
Sure,
like when you feel
sure.
like, oh, it's like perfectly normal to have like a nice meal for $6 to $8. I'm just like, that's like poverty in the US. That is poverty. Do you understand? Like
Okay.
like $6 to $8 is not even a plastic chair. Like that's on like the sidewalk. Like you can't even afford to go into McDonald's unless you're buying something off of like the dollar menu. And then of course it's gonna be like enriched with like seed oils and crap.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
yeah. It's like what's interesting about what she said though is that, like of course like there's the whole thing we could talk about like these drop shippers. I have a few friends in that niche and it's a interesting and
Yeah,
lovely
it's like
niche.
you
But
make $800 and you think of like every dollar spent you live somewhere in the hostel. Of course you can do this, but I'm sorry, I'm adult already. I don't want to live in hostels. I don't want to backpack. I just don't want to do this.
I've
I want
never
to
lived
have
in one. I've never stayed in one. I never want to. And there are like there are situations where like I've booked Airbnbs in places and I'll get to the Airbnb and I'll be like, nope. And I'll just book myself a four-star hotel. Why? Because I
Mhm.
can. I don't want to stay there.
Yeah,
Like this place
yeah,
sucks.
I get it.
Yeah.
I don't want to laugh at it because I started traveling when I was like 16 and I didn't have money, right? I was making very little money. Okay. But I was making money and my aim was to travel. I wanted to see that there might be some other options than just Czechia. I want to check it out. And I just literally just was booking the cheapest places, which was terrible. And I survived, but it's not what I want to have anymore in my life, right? So I understand this. And I think it's cool, but not cool anymore when you're 30, when you're 40. And that maybe um, gets me to the point of I went to Bali to reset myself a bit. I think it's a good place for this. It's pretty green. There's a lot of traffic now, but it's still okay.
Yeah.
And there's a good infrastructure to sort of have it figured out for yourself. So I was looking for something really, I'd call it like low maintenance, right? I want to live somewhere right next to me to or very close to me to have a gym, like the best gym in on the island, with the best spa and with some good food there as well as best. And optionally, if I want to, I can travel to some cafes as well. Nice cafes, nice place, easy access to entrepreneurs, which is also good here if you're in Canggu, which is a western coast city.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're pretty nice people, pretty nice places. You can live in a good place and pay out rent like $1,000 a month in okay place. Not like super luxury, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And but then the problem, and here I return to this kind of like maybe I'm grown up I already. It's not for me anymore. Is this? I realize that this island life is nice, but it's something like prolonged teenage adolescence kind of vibe. And you see those 45-year-old men all tattooed on the bike, like I'm a teenager forever free life. And I'm
Hey,
like, yeah,
hey,
it's
Samuela,
cool.
like
But maybe
honestly,
no.
you just sound like a hater.
Am I a hater?
No, no, but I do understand what you are referencing. The reason why, because so like I used to live in Portugal and I moved back to the US because also wanted to be around entrepreneurs. Okay? Because in Portugal there are entrepreneurs. There's a great like Web3 community, actually, very vibrant, wonderful. I got some good friends there. But the culture in a whole, like they're rather lazy. It's like Southern Europe, like it's just a lazy place. I'm in Florida right now. It's a little bit more laid back. It's a little bit more chill. But I'm constantly surrounded by like tech entrepreneurs. Everyone's hustling, and I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm doing some drop shipping and making $800 a month. I'm talking about people who are like making like $1 million companies, or like they're doing like the next tech thing, or they're like a salesperson for like some like pharmaceutical or I cannot talk, for like a medical company, and like they're making one or $200,000. So you're on a completely different level than compared to people in Portugal where it's like if they're making 30, $40,000, they're thinking like they are top of the world. Or even like Bali where, like you're making like $2,000 or $3,000 a month and like yeah, you're probably like 1% or maybe like top 5%. But for me, I wanted to surround myself with people that are like making crazy amounts of money so they can inspire me, and there's certain jurisdictions for that. You got Dubai, Abu Dhabi, um like New York, San Francisco, Singapore, um let's say even like Hong Kong is a great place. So I wanted to surround myself with a place like that. I don't live in Miami. I live like a few hours outside of Miami. Miami is definitely a place where people are making crazy amounts of money, and I'm not there yet. I wanted to be in a smaller, city. Uh, but for me, but that is something important. So
Yeah.
I would visit Bali, but I can never live there because I can never be surrounded by people that are like just happy, just, oh, I made $2,000 a month right now and I'm sitting on my plastic chairs.
Yeah. Uh, but
Hell
again, like
no.
I'm not laughing at this. I accept that what works for other people works for them.
Sure.
But I agree with you, and I have the same perception that and I had to come to this. Like I was in Bali, I think 2 years ago with my best friend Pavel Luptak, and we were traveling around. It was kind of fun when you explore it at first. You travel a bit, you watch the sunset over the ocean. It's beautiful. But now I'm like, I outgrown it. It feels like high school, summer love, like forever free. I don't know what I want in life, but let's go with the flow. And I'm like, I'm 29. I don't want this anymore. And
Yeah.
of course, there are people who I think it's a good from psychological perspective. It's a good compensation of if you haven't lived fully this kind of period. But at some point, you realize like, okay, I compensated this. I don't want this anymore. I want to move on to the next stage and accept. To me, here we return, and maybe we can conclude that to me, the sovereignty is about ownership of own life, about accepting this ownership that I'm responsible for my life. I created a concept related to this. It's about broadening individual freedom. I call it the freest with I after double E. And it's a person who accepted full responsibility for our own life, who accepted responsibility for our own life, and wants to broaden own freedom through this. It doesn't work in another way. I write a book about this. I hope it will be out in a few months.
Cool.
But yeah, to me, this is about this. And it's actually about maturity. So yeah, maybe it's time to stop compensating oneself and to stop also abusing oneself from the government. but but and like this kind of explanation of oneself why some place is not so bad. Uh, I don't mean you, but I mean in general, a lot of people have this tendency, and it's normal. It's very natural because I see that the worst thing we can do and we have to do is to face the truth, to face that okay, some things might been working for me in the past. It doesn't work anymore for me. So it may be time to move on. It's very hard because it means we have to leave something that we got habitual about in our life and to move on to a better place, to move on where we can get not just better freedom, but rather more happiness in the first place, the lifestyle that would fit us. So yeah, I don't like winters, so I opted into forever summer year. Maybe not in the best place that would work for me, but today I'm actually heading to Hong Kong, and man, I can't
Oh, that
wait
sounds exciting.
because yeah, I have a feeling that it will be my kind of place. I really
I
like
think so
Dubai. I like
too. I think so
Singapore.
too. I think Hong
But
Kong would
yeah,
be a great place for you.
I cannot, honestly, after 2 months in Bali, my dream is to go to theater. Just for theater, dress up.
We're talking about growing up, right?
I need this. I need this.
Samuela,
So yeah,
Samuela, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and your inspiration. Thank you so much for being a
thank you,
guest.
Joey.
Great.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.